Greetings, Taco Faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, it's Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm here to bring you all yet again another Legends of Tomorrow episode review right here on Otaku Assemble. Weekly, and actually here to bring you all last week's Legends of Tomorrow episode review. I do apologize for the late upload, but the NFL draft was this past Thursday, and I had to make sure I didn't miss that. But nevertheless, I am here to bring you all the latest Legends of Tomorrow episode review, and this is my review of Season 1, Episode 13, entitled Leviathan. Now, general thoughts on this week's episode. This was another good episode, and definitely one of the best episodes of the season so far. I really did like the pacing of the episode, and given the fact that this is the fourth to last episode, because we have 3 more after this, right? Like, this episode really did feel like the first part in what could be a 4-part finale. So I think that was really well done. Now, I'm actually going to do this review a little bit differently than I normally do them. Usually, I'll talk about what the episode did well and what the episode didn't do so well, and I usually do it in that order. Actually, for this review, I'm going to flip-flop, because the episode overall, I think, was really good, right? And while I don't think there was anything bad about the episode necessarily, there are a few things I think they could have improved on. But there's one thing I think the episode did really well that opens up a lot of interesting possibilities, and that I actually want to save for the end of this review. So let's go ahead and let's jump into this episode. Now, in this episode, the team finally arrives in, I believe, 2166, which is the year in which Vandal Savage is at the height of his power. Now, we know from the previous episode this was a very dangerous time and a very dangerous place for our team to go to. But at this point in time in the season, they have nothing else to lose. So they go to 2166, and we do get to see Savage. We do get to see his regime. And we do get to see pretty much the fallout of Savage's attacks. These places in which Savage has decimated and had to sort of, conquer. And of course, we do have that danger, of course, but also at the same time, the team is trying to figure out ways of intercepting, trying to figure out ways of infiltrating Savage's army and whatnot, and trying to set up an attack to finally bring him down. I mean, that, by and large, is the plot for this episode, right? Now, as I mentioned before, I don't think there was anything necessarily bad about the episode. Just a few things I think the episode could have improved on, and I'm going to go ahead and tackle those right now. So the first thing is with the Adam Leviathan fight, right? Now, that I think was pretty cool, especially because in this episode, Ray figured out how to actually enlarge himself. I thought that was pretty cool. The one thing I would say about the fight, though, that didn't work so well was the CG, especially Ray's CG. I mean, and it's kind of weird too, especially since this, it would have been one thing if this was more CG with Ray downsizing himself, but he actually grew larger. So, like, the completely CG rendered face and whatnot, like, I don't know why they wouldn't just photo fill his face onto the CG figure. But yeah, that's the only real issue I had with that fight, was just some of the CG work didn't work out as well. And you can sort of tell because the whole fight takes place at night. And the way they shoot some of the action sequences, you can tell they were trying to cover up some flaws in the CG. And it's a little bit surprising with this show, because Legends, just like with Flash, some of the CG on the show is so hit and miss, right? Like, some of the CG will be done really, really well, and then some of it not so much. But I will say that's the only real criticism I have about that fight, with some of the CG work. And of course, that's just a technical issue. Now, the second thing, and this is a narrative issue, the second thing I think could have really been improved upon was the way in which Kendra figures out exactly how she could defeat Savage in this episode. Now, the idea of melting down the bracelet that she had from ancient Egypt and coating Carter's mace with it, that I thought was pretty cool. And I thought it was a cool origin for Hawkgirl's enchanted mace, that, because Hawkgirl always has a magical mace in the comics. So the way in which that's how that weapon gets created, I thought that was pretty cool. What I thought could have been improved upon was the way in which she figures that out, and the sort of explanation or exploration, if you will, getting to that point. Because the way they write it in the episode makes it seem like Carter had something to do with it, like that was some information that Kendra didn't already know, and something that she didn't necessarily come up with herself. Now, like I said, I think she did sort of think of that idea on her own, but that's not the way it plays out in the episode. It's because she's going through Carter's old notes and whatnot, and she uncovers his mace. Then we get the flashback with Carter training her on how to use the mace, and then next thing we know, after they get the bracelet from Savage's daughter, oh, here, I got the idea. Let's go ahead and melt it down and coat the mace with it. So it almost seems like she didn't even get the idea herself. That, I think, was a misstep. I think, no, because Kendra is not dumb, okay? And if you want to make this character more capable, and if you want us to believe that she actually could be Hawkgirl and sort of play this role and really, you know, fill in these shoes, if you will, I mean, you have to make her capable, you have to make her proactive. You can't necessarily have everything spelled out for her. And that was the thing. That's not something that needed to be spelled out at all. All that, I mean, if nothing else, it would have shown how intuitive she is. It would have shown some ingenuity on her part. And I think they didn't necessarily handle that well enough. So, now, third thing that I think wasn't really handled well enough, could have been improved upon, is Savage's daughter. Now, I was getting the impression, and there is enough to suggest in the episode that Savage's daughter didn't actually exist in this time. And I was already questioning that coming into the episode. Here's the thing though, we don't get any comment that supports that she was. Like, Rip never comments on the fact that, oh, Savage has a daughter. In fact, Rip didn't even know that she was Savage's daughter. So there's enough in the episode to suggest that she did not originally belong to this time, that she was actually a change to the timeline, right? That is really cool. But because of that is why I feel like that was an area that was not explored enough, because, you know, Savage had an ace in the hole, right? And I'll get to that later on in the review, but how cool would it have been, right, for a character like Savage's daughter, who did not exist in this timeline, who Hunter had absolutely no information on, right? A complete wild card thrown into the wrench of whatever the team could have came up with, because they weren't expecting her. And the fact that they made her so gullible, because the way the whole thing plays out with her and Snart sort of revealing Savage's true nature to her, like, it came at a surprise. And here's the thing, that didn't really work in my opinion, because his daughter is for all intent and purposes number 2, his main lieutenant. For her to be completely gullible to her father's nature and her father's actions, I don't buy that. Now, if it was a matter of her being brainwashed, that would have been one thing. And that would have really sort of opened up a new door of possibilities, because it's like, oh my God, like, how ruthless is this man to brainwash his own daughter? Like, we already know what he has done to his disciples and his followers in the past, but this is his flesh and blood. If he would have done something like brainwashing, that would have been like, whoa. But we didn't get any of that. They didn't do that. So like I said, what we got with Cassie, I won't say it was necessarily bad, but it certainly wasn't explored to the extent that it could have been. Because that could have, oh man, that could have been so interesting. And another thing, which this is going to be my fourth point, things that they could have touched up on, things that could have been worked a little bit better, but we don't necessarily know the full extent of this. And that is Savage at this point in time, after all of the interference from the team in the past. We do know that this timeline has been affected, as I just briefly mentioned, has been affected. Savage has full memory, full recollections of his encounters with the team in the other time periods, right? And so the one thing that I don't think, we only got one real thing. We only got one real thing, right? But everything else, it seems like Savage was sort of playing everything out like he would have originally from Rip's timeline. I don't think there was enough in the episode to suggest that Savage had really put some contingencies in place for dealing with the team and expecting to encounter them again at that time period. Do you follow? Like, the fact that, I mean, what is this? Like their fourth or fifth encounter? And we know that Savage has planned some things for them. But like I said, there's not enough in this episode to suggest that he was fully prepared to encounter them again. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that we won't start seeing some stuff come out of the woodwork in the next 3 episodes. We might. So hang on to that thought. But that is going to bring me to the one thing I think that the episode did really, really well. I'm not sure how the rest of the fan base is feeling about this, but the Carter plot twist, I thought that was phenomenal. And that's the one, that is the one clue we got that, yeah, Savage does have some contingencies. But man, I did not see that Carter plot twist coming. I totally did. And the second it happened, I went, wow, damn, that was actually really good. That was actually really good. And the fact that, now granted, you can argue about how him trying to use Carter as leverage against Kendra shouldn't have worked, especially when you take in consideration that he didn't threaten Carter's life. He just said that he brainwashed him, right? Remember what I said about Savage has the ability to brainwash people. He brainwashed him, but he wasn't threatening Carter's life. So you could argue that Kendra having to choose between killing Savage and saving Carter, that shouldn't have mattered, right? Because she could have killed Savage and Carter would have still lived. He would have still lived, he just would have been brainwashed, right? So no, instead what they end up doing is they apprehend both of them and bring them back on the ship. But still, like, the idea that Savage thought that much in advance to find Carter's reincarnation in that time, to brainwash him, to use him pretty much like I said, he was an ace in the hole. He knew that would provoke a reaction out of Kendra, and so he was sort of keeping Carter in his back pocket for that encounter. That I thought was really good. Really, really good. Now, yeah, could it have been improved upon? Certainly. Could it have been explored a little bit better? Certainly. But once again, I think it would be a little premature to really sort of dive into that because we still have 3 episodes left. We don't know what Savage's whole plan is yet. But I'm definitely looking forward to next week's episode. I want to see how this whole thing plays out. And as I stated at the beginning of this review, the fact that this does feel like the first part of the finale, I think really works. So we'll just have to see how the last 3 episodes play out. But that's going to go ahead and conclude this Legends of Tomorrow episode review. I want to thank you all for joining me again this week. In the comments below, leave your thoughts on this week's episode and let me know what you all are expecting from the next episode. If you like this review, please feel free. Thumb it up, share it with other fans of the show and other people you think would enjoy my review. And if you have yet to do so, subscribe to the OAW YouTube channel. Annotation is above head. Now, keep an eye out for the latest top 5 video that is actually going to be up by tomorrow morning because I'm getting ready to record that right after I'm done with this. And then, well, tomorrow's Tuesday, so of course, Tuesday night, Flash review, Wednesday night, Arrow review, Thursday night, Legends will be back on its regular night. We'll be back on this regular night. And as for the weekend, I'm currently reworking some videos right now. But don't worry because you will be getting a new discussion of the week and a new top 5 and a new Hunter x Hunter later on in the week. And with that being said, this has been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, signing off. And until next time, peace.